All right, I think we have a good number of participants to get started. So again, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are dialing in from. A very warm welcome to the February 2023 session of Employee Center Academy. If this is the first time that you're joining the Academy session, I want to set some expectations. These are monthly sessions that the product team runs for all our customers and partners and even internal folks. And this is the time that we have dedicated to let you ask your questions, to interact with us. We typically have a topic and we want that topic to be the focus of discussion, but it is truly your time. And we try not to make this a presentation and keep it more of an open forum for you to ask questions, and we're actively looking at the Q&A panel to address those questions. We will also be looking at the product live. We can look into configurations if depending on the questions that you ask. So please feel free to just raise your hand or use the Q&A panel. Then, like I said, these are monthly sessions, so we will be back next month, and the thumb rule for remembering when we hold these sessions is it's the every third Wednesday of a month. So today is February 15th. It's the third Wednesday for February. Next one is going to be March 15th. That's the third Wednesday of March. I see a question on Q&A that are we planning to hold any K3 events? We won't have an Employee Center Academy event, but in Knowledge 2023, you will see a lot of Employee Center focused events. They will also have labs as well as customer presentations and also product presentations. So you'll see a lot of activity around Employee Center content in Knowledge 2023. Now, logistics, please make sure you're asking all your questions in the Q&A panel only, or you're raising your hand. It's faster if you just type it in Q&A panel because we are actively looking at it. But we will try to keep some time for those who are raising their hand too. We're not monitoring the chat for Q&A, so please don't put your Q&A or questions on chat. The chat is only for comments. You want to share your thoughts, you want to comment on anything that you're hearing in the content, please use chat. But questions, it's the Q&A panel. And I want to let everyone know that the slides and the recording for this session will be available for you. And it takes about a week or so for these to be made available on community. So please hold tight, but this will be shared. And on the link that you would see the page where the event link on chat where the recording and slides for this will be posted. Now let's talk about what we will be covering today. So we will be talking about personalization on Employee Center. There's a lot of questions that I get, like what is personalized? What are the different types of personalization? And we typically say targeted content, tailored content. What is it? And this session today, we will talk about all of those. To introduce myself, I am Pooja Gupta. I'm a product manager with the Unified Employee Experience team. And you will hear me talk a lot in Employee Center sessions, Microsoft Teams, Now Mobile conversations. These are all the product areas that come under the Unified Employee Experience product umbrella in ServiceNow. Joined with me is Rohan Rasane, who is a senior staff software engineer in our team. Rohan, you want to just say hi and expand on that introduction?
Sure, yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Rohan. I've been with ServiceNow for more than 8 years. Been on this product for a while and excited to help you in this journey.
Thanks, Rohan. Now, let's talk about what we will cover. So we will cover all the personalization options that are available with Employee Center. Especially in today's session, we have a lot of time for discussion and Q&A. We even have a couple of polls that we will run to get the discussion started. And we will end it with an art of possible for personalization. Now, I do want to highlight given that the topic is personalization, we want to keep a couple of things out of the discussion today. One is migrating or upgrading to Employee Center or Employee Center Pro, or any feature comparison between Employee Center and Employee Center Pro. So we will, as we are talking through the features, I'll highlight what is Employee Center and Employee Center Pro. But beyond that, we're not getting into details on this. If that's an area that you're interested in, we have a couple of options that are coming up. First is we are starting what we call employee-centered deployment office hours. I'm already seeing in the Q&A panel, there are questions around how do we migrate Employee Center from non-prod to prod? How do we manage the scope? All of these questions, this office hour is perfect for it. In fact, on that question, our next Academy session is also going to be about the best practices associating around upgrading and testing and deploying Employee Center. So hold on to that. These office hours are going to be last Tuesday of every month, and they're starting this month on February 28th. We just made the decision to start this, so the event pages are coming, but you will find the event page come on the live on ServiceNow employee experience event page. So if you just follow that, you will be able to get a registration page on that. Having said that, if you definitely want to be in this office hour, feel free to drop your email on the chat, and we will make sure that you are invited to these office hours. Again, it's a monthly series, and this will be not like Academy. Academy is where we are presenting. Office hours is purely just you asking your questions. Yeah. Thank you for those who are sharing their email. We will definitely invite you. Now, there's another office hour that we are starting, and this is, again, an invite only. You won't see a registration page for this. So if you want to get registered, you'll have to use the QR code. This one will focus on content experiences. So if you are investing in capabilities like actionable communications, campaigns, microsites, posting videos, content governance, content analytics, these are all Employee Center Pro communication capabilities. We request you to use the QR code and send us your details. We will invite you. We haven't decided on a cadence for this yet, but this is upcoming, and so we're gathering interest, and we will definitely invite you for that. So if you need further resources, those office hours are not in timeline that you would want to get your answers. There are a lot of resources that we have, which we continuously build upon to provide you the help. This Employee Center community, when you will see the links for these coming out in chat soon. There is Employee Center Essentials. This is a new this is a training, I wouldn't say new anymore, on Now Learning. And we are right now updating it and making it align with all the new features and capabilities that we have shipped with, like San Diego, Tokyo, and Utah release. So a great way to just get started with Employee Center. And of course, we have Now Create and the YouTube playlist for all the sessions that we do, all the webinars that we do for Employee Center. So all of these resources are really good to answer most of your questions. Now, let's talk about personalization and get into the meat of our conversation today. So why is personalization important? And this is like no-brainer, like a lot of people would agree with it. One size fits all doesn't always work for everyone. People have their own preferences. They approach things differently. They search for things differently. Someone likes to go on search. Someone likes to go on the menus and browse for things. The one size fits all is not the ideal thing for everyone. And then secondly, not all content in the landing page is relevant. So there are people who may be sitting in US versus people who are sitting in, let's say, EMEA, or like who are sitting in Japan. They would need to have different content as applicable to their work environment or whatever laws that they have. So it's important for them to tailor the content and have the right content relevant for them available and in a easy way. Now, from an organization standpoint, if the organization does invest in personalization, there are a lot of different business values that they get. One, it helps decrease time to find information. It increases productivity. It boosts engagement, gives a personal touch, which creates a positive feeling about the organization, makes the employee feel that we are the organization knows about me, cares about me, and is trying to serve my needs, and that's a good thing. So personalization is important, and we should definitely think about it. And that's the lens we approach employee center as well, that there are preferences that users will have, and not all content is relevant. So we have to make sure the right content, the relevant content, and in the preferred style is made available to the employee. So if you think about personalization on Employee Center, I would categorize it into three different things. First one, which is the bulk of the personalization on Employee Center, is system driven. So this is all these settings or all the configurations that an admin would have made to target content. And this content could be knowledge articles, catalog request items, quick links, communications, and so on, based on the user profile. And you define that user profile. It could be based on role, it could be a select set of group, it could be based on geographies, and so on. So that's targeted content. That's like, someone actually saying, make this content available for only this set of people. Then there is machine learning or AI-driven capabilities, which surface up content based on a model that has been defined by the admin. So for example, there is something called recommended for you widget on Employee Center, which brings up content that is popular among the similar profile users in the organization. And I will talk about it a little bit more. But essentially, the targeting or the relevance of it is calculated based on a machine learning algorithm. We'll get into the details for this. So system-driven personalization is the first one. Second one is user-driven. So like we discussed, users have their own preferences. They want to see things differently. They want to, their starting point is different. So how can we allow users to make their own selections about the content, about the look and feel, and whatever they want to do they want to show up or do on the portal? So user-driven personalization. And the third, I think of it as a concierge service, is persona-driven. So these are not that you are tailoring the existing experience and make it work for a particular user, but you're creating a completely new experience for that user. So Manager Hub is a perfect example for that, and we'll very briefly talk about that. I'm seeing a lot of questions on the office hours. There are no limitations. Anyone can join. The recommendation is, if you are actively deploying Employee Center, that conversation, those office hours will be more helpful. If you have already deployed and you're looking to expand, you can still join, but remember, a lot of the Q&A on it will be on the basic things. The content experiences office hours, we would require you to be actively investing in content experiences. So that's why it is a registration and not like an open link. Okay. All right. So now let's dive deeper and get into personalization, about the system-driven personalization, excuse me. So the first one I want to talk about is that we can apply user criteria on any content that is on the portal. So there are articles, events, catalog items, quick links, and I'll showcase this shortly in an instance. So hide or show content. Second is, if you're building a knowledge article, you can actually have segments of that knowledge article unique to a different set of users. So for example, you are building a policy article, but the policy associated with different geographies is different. So there are different organizations that, let's say, someone would have to work with if there is, so basically the policy would change depending on the localization, like location of the user. And you can actually have the area where the difference is in the article change based on where the user is. Though that capability is called knowledge block. I'm actually seeing a very interesting question in the chat, in the Q&A. Can you clarify the difference between personalization and configuration? I think personalization is what a user can set for themselves, and configuration is what the admin sets for users. Are you using them interchangeably? I really like this question, Joe, so thank you for bringing it up. I think personalization, and I can go a step back to talk about it, it's different from configuration. So configuration is when you are setting it up, like how you want a particular widget to appear. Let's talk about my task widget. So you are saying that in my task, I want for users to be able to see what the task details are, should be able to act upon it, like if it's an approval, be able to approve it directly or not. That is configuration. Now, not all configuration is leading to personalization. So personalization is when you're configuring the system differently for a particular user. So I think of it as a system-driven configuration. So personalization is a superset where there is configuration-related elements, like what I'm saying, system-driven. All of that is configuration-based. And there is user-driven elements, which are what the user is deciding. But all the targeting that the admin is doing could be called configuration, but it is actually the experience that it's creating is personalization. And when we get to the instance, you would see that. Hope that makes sense, and feel free to ask any questions. So there's another question. Can HR administrator configure or personalize the employee center, like adding widgets? Yes, it depends on like what kind of rights the person has on the employee center. So you could if the HR administrator has rights to create content, they could of course define who the content is targeted for. If they have rights to own a topic, they could personalize what's available on the topic. So it just depends on what level of rights the HR administrator has defined in employee center. So it depends on that. Let me see if there are any other questions before we. Okay, there are a few more additional specific questions and we will get there shortly. Okay, so let's continue on our system-driven personalization. So show and hide content and knowledge blocks. Okay. The third one is, I mentioned this briefly, there is recommended for you. So this is a whole new widget in Employee Center where content that is accessed by similar profile users is recommended for the user. That's very helpful in actually getting to what I may need. And I want to clarify one thing over here because I often get asked that question. If you are looking at Employee Center implementation, recommended for you is recommending content based on popularity. So there's less of personalization there. But if you are an Employee Center Pro, the recommended for you widget is highlighting content based on people who are similar to me and what they are accessing. So let's say I am a product manager sitting in US. The algorithm could be looking at product managers in US and what content they are looking, and will highlight the relevant content based on what they are all looking. So it's a little bit more personalized for Employee Center Pro. Feel free to ask questions on this and we can get there. How does the algorithm work for recommended for you? We have an article on community that highlights this, and we'll try to dig it up and share on chat. But essentially, it is looking for people with similar profile. It is checking what content they are using. They are viewing in the past, I think, 30 days or something, and highlighting the content based on that. So it's based on similarity. How are you showing trending content? So like the trending content is same as recommended for you. For us, there's also a popular topics, which is also based on popularity. So that's trending topics. You could call it that. But apart from that, it's recommended for you and popular topics. So for recommended for you, is it looking at job title in the profile or what data to find similar project managers? Rohan, do you have specifics around the recommended for you widgets that you can possibly talk about?
Let me get some resources from the documentation that I can point.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, this is like we've covered this question in community. We get this often, so we'll share it on chat as soon as possible. All right, so the fifth one, which is a really cool one, is you can have targeted communication content and targeted rich content based on the specific role, location, and other characteristics. So you actually define an audience for that content, for that communication or campaign, and you can have a completely different experience depending on where you are based or what your role is, and as you define the audience as an admin. So going back to the personalization versus configuration question, now you could argue that this number 5 is configuration, but it is actually a personalization that is defined by the admin and not necessarily by the user. And then the sixth one is a pretty basic one. It's like, you can have, so out of box, we have this thing called application launcher, where you can see all the applications that are assigned to you. And then in that, you can filter based on recently accessed. We've seen organizations to, provide recently accessed content based on articles and catalog items as well. So that's a common system-driven personalization that we have seen. Now let me pause here and let's do a quick poll. And I'm happy to answer questions meanwhile, but let me launch this. Just want to get a good understanding. Amrita, do you see the poll come up? Because I got an error on my side. Can someone give me a thumbs up?
Pooja, it's launched. The poll's launched.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, let me see if there are any questions pending meanwhile. Okay. So does trending content pull from articles or from service catalog topics? It actually pulls from both. It's a combination of catalog and knowledge. And it is looking at number of times the articles has been viewed and the number of times the catalog request has been made. So it depends on that. And I see, is there a hand raise? Yes. Okay, so Sukhjinder, you should be able to unmute and ask a question. Okay, let me go to the other person. Okay, I'm not sure if you're able to unmute, but we will get back to you at the end of the conversation again. Let me share the results. So it's interesting to see that, you know, a lot of these personalization is something that you're already using. Most of you are using the targeted content, which is very good, because it ultimately affects your, that's the most important thing. When you are searching for content, when you are browsing for content, you don't want to see content that is not relevant to you. So I'm super glad to see that you are using user criteria on all your content. Knowledge blocks, at least 54% of you are using knowledge blocks. Again, we have seen so many organizations create multiple articles and then have user criteria defined on those articles, but you don't need to create multiple articles, and you can just have one article, use knowledge block capability, and you know, build targeted content. Recommended for you, a lot of you are using, that's great. Mega menu is also good. Yeah, so this is good. I'm glad to see so much participation. Now let's do one thing. Let me get on an instance and I can show you some of the system-driven capabilities that we just spoke about. So this is my instance. This is I'm logged in as an admin, and this is Employee Center Pro. You can see, I see this is a very vanilla out-of-box experience that we have, and it's pretty rich, even if it is out-of-box. But you can see some of the personalization that, you know, I'm talking about. This recommended for you widget. If this wasn't clear what it is, it's over here. But beyond this, there are also my tasks, my requests. Now, again, this is a gray area whether you want to call it personalized, but it makes as a user, it makes you feel that I can access my things on the portal, which is helpful. Now, let me show you one thing. Keep an eye of like all the menu items that I see over here. So I see HR, IT, workplace, legal, org chart. Let me impersonate as someone else. So I'm Beth. And I, let's say for whatever reason, don't have access to legal. I don't see legal come up over here. And that's because the content inside it is not visible for me. Now, you could have rich content. So this is basically just a rich content editor widget that has been placed on a homepage. And you could have like this whole look and feel for the homepage completely changed for Beth versus to what we had in the previous user. Now, this is just an example of what it could be. Now, this article could be a video, it could be button links, it could be anything else that you envision. Now, the articles that I'm seeing recommended for me are different from what I saw in the previous one. The quick links are different. It's not necessarily the same as what was with the previous user. So these are just some basic system-driven personalization that is possible. Let me see, are there any more questions? Okay. Can recommended for you be in a list format rather than a widget box? I believe it can be. Out of box, this is how we recommend it to be. You can like decide how many of these articles are visible and what the look and feel around it is. So yes, it's possible. Can the mega menu be personalized? I do not understand if and how mega taxonomy is personalized. So that's a good question. And let me clarify that. So we are not putting user criteria on the mega menu. You're putting user criteria on the content that is available within these topics in the mega menu. So if you do not have content that is associated to you in any of the topics, that topic will not appear. So it's that way that we are doing personalization on the mega menu. It's making sure that the person that you don't want to have access to the topic doesn't have any content associated with them in that topic. Now, there's a reason why we did this, because if you have too many layers of user criteria defined, it becomes extremely difficult to manage it. So we have avoided the complexity of having user criteria defined at the topic level. Yeah, so this should answer the other questions that you can't hide legal from the taxonomy level. You can only define it. You can only define who, like the availability, or like you can only define the user criteria at the content level. Okay, and then you could have user criteria defined on the pages, like how these links that you have, for example, Manager Hub, who that Manager Hub is available to. It's a page that has been added on this menu, so you could have user criteria defined on that. Okay. All right. I think I've covered most of the questions. If not, we will get back to them at the end of this session. So let me go back and share my screen. Okay. Now let's talk about user-driven personalization. So we spoke about system-driven personalization, and we'll talk about user-driven. First one, and I think most of you are familiar with this, it's using favorites. So like, content is spread across the portal. It's in topic pages, it's in different pages. Users should be able to should not need to navigate to find the content that they are likely to use the most. So they can favorite things no matter where that content they are viewing it from. So if they're viewing it from their phone, they're viewing it from recommended for you widget, or on a topic page or some other page, the user can actually favorite it and access it in one single way. And I'll show that to you when we get to the instance. Now, employee profile, we have a whole new experience for the employees to create their own profiles and manage it. And there's a whole new experience for what admins can do and what users can do. And the cool thing about this is we have created this ability for the user to personalize the experience, or how they want to portray their profile to their users. And I'll show that to you. So they can change their photos, they can change their bio, and so on. They can even share, they can even define what components of it is available publicly. There's an extension to this that is coming out in our next release, where they can even pick up smaller portions of this and can define what is visible to them versus the manager and versus to everyone in the organization. Then language selector. So this is something that is a combination of configuration or system-driven personalization versus user-driven personalization. The user can choose that I want content to be visible in Mandarin, or I want content to be visible in German, and I prefer that. Now, user can choose that. The admin has to make sure the content is translated to support that request, but it is the choice that the user is making to read the content in a particular language. Then there is the capability of, so especially for those who are using Community on Employee Center Pro, you can have users opt in for a specific group. So this is again personalization in the aspect of community participation. And then not a lot of people are familiar, but there is a notification preference that is available as part of ServiceNow platform, where a user can define whether they want to have email as their preferred channel or unsubscribe to emails from ServiceNow. So there is flexibility that the platform provides. Now let's run a quick poll and understand what are the user-driven personalization options that people are currently using. And then, I can jump on the ones that people want to hear more about during my demo. Maybe we can try unmuting for trying to get people to unmute right now. Okay. Those who have your hand raised, I did give you rights to unmute. Let's take a look if you're able to unmute. Okay. Yeah, so someone is asking if community means employee forums. Yes, so that has been used interchangeably. Employee forum is same as the community on Employee Center Pro. So if I have dynamic translation set up for an article, can it be set up to operate in blocks or just the full articles? I think it applies to the full articles, and it will take care of the block as well. I suspect, like, because a block is part of an article, you wouldn't want to just translate the block. You would want to translate the whole article. So you should definitely use the dynamic translation for the full article and not just the block. So another question, are popular topics pulled from service catalog only? Can I pull it in knowledge articles that are not assigned to a catalog? So popular topics look at both the service catalog and knowledge articles that are assigned to the topic. So it is calculating popularity based on the content within the topic. So let's say you have topic A and topic B, it will compare out of the content in topic A, like, if you just look at aggregate of the popularity of the content in topic A and the aggregation of popularity in topic B, it's whichever comes up. That's how it is calculating popular topics. Again, this is also covered very heavily in a knowledge article, in a community article, and we will share that with you. By the way, if you're not familiar, we share all the Q&A in the events link page that was shared on chat. So we will, like, if you don't get it on chat right now, we will definitely post it in the Q&A. So keep an eye out for that. Okay, so a lot of you have answered. Let's look at the poll results. Okay, very nice to see that 61% are using favorites. That is a very easy way to use user-driven personalization. Employee profile content is another something that people are using. Not a lot, but they are, which is good. Employee profile, by the way, does not require Employee Center Pro, I'm sorry. Language selector, community participation, notification preferences are also what people are using. Good to know. So let's have a look at what this will look like in an instance. So again, so I am going to, I'm impersonated as Beth, and you would see this is my favorites. I can access, there's only one article that I've favorited right now. But let's say I go on home, I look at recommended for you and I say, oh, what are phishing scams? That is something I want to favorite and make sure it is on top of my mind. So I favorite it over here. And then let's say I go on articles, applications, and I say, Concur, I am going to travel a lot lately, so I want to favorite Concur application. And then I go back on my favorites. All of these things are easily accessible for me. All the articles that I have favorited, all the applications. If I have catalog items favorited, another content type would appear over here, and I can filter it based on catalog. Not a lot of people know you can actually define your own content types to make it accessible for this favoriting fabric. So let's say you have courses or events and you want to make, you want to allow users to be able to favorite it, you can easily do that. Okay. Okay, now take a look at the employee profile. So I'm Beth, I look at my profile. Here's all the different things. So I've added a personal photo that I want to use. I've changed the background. And I don't know if you have seen this, but if you look at it, it comes with an embedded photo editor. So editing and personalizing the experience is super easy. I can zoom in, I can zoom out, I can flip it, I can turn around, I can crop it, I can do all of those things directly from the system, and I don't have to go out. And this applies for both the banner and the photo. And then, there are other things. I can set a preferred pronoun. I can set a bio that I want to use. I can add a nickname. These are all things that you could use to create your own personal image in the organization. Now, because I'm in my own profile, I can see a lot of personal information that is part of my HR profile that has been highlighted over here, like contact details, personal information, employee details, and so on. Now, let me end this in personalization, and I'm going to try to search Beth. So, yeah, as a user. And then when I'm viewing as an employee to what Beth has, Beth's profile, I don't see all the personal information that Beth can see. So that is a system-driven personalization that I didn't highlight that much in the system. You can actually have widgets that appear based on who is accessing. So in case of Beth, in the profile page, I can see all my personal details. But if someone else is accessing the profile view, they cannot see those details. Okay. So someone is asking about language selector. It's basically if you go on this profile, you can, not here, sorry, I need to end. You need to go on preferences. If you go on preferences, then you can select the language. So I could choose my language to be German and refresh to see changes. The portal is visible in German for me. Now, the admin has to configure this to be able to, actually see I don't think it got applied. But essentially, so yeah, so how much of this is configured depends on the admin. So right now I see some of the titles have been changed, but not the taxonomy has not been set up for German. So the experience that I'll get depends on what the configuration has been made at the back end. Let me see if there are any other questions. So is there a directory functionality to look up an employee on the EC or view their profile? So there are a couple of ways you could do that. You could just search, but if you just go on profile, if you just go on org chart, you can search for an employee over there as well. So I can see Beth, I can see her profile. By the way, this view is also configurable. So the admins can set what action buttons are visible, what details are visible on cards like this. So this is the directory functionality, which we have to search for people or look up for employees on their profile. Now, if you have an integration with Microsoft Teams, by the way, you could have their availability also visible over here. So you could see whether this person is available or away or in do not disturb mode directly over here. And you can even start or connect on Teams to kick a conversation, to have a conversation started. Or you can send an email and so on. So there's a question on what changes does the user experience when accessibility is enabled. I think it's just on I haven't tried it out and we could try it right now. But essentially the amount of the navigation has some extra highlights, and there are some aspects of accessibility that are visible. I'm not sure if I have that set up correctly in my instance. I'm not too comfortable demoing it, but essentially that says whether you want the accessibility guidance to come up or not on your system. Okay. So someone is asking for that Teams feature. Does it need to be integrated? Yes, you have to build the integrations for Microsoft Teams. So you have to essentially get ServiceNow for Microsoft Teams application from ServiceNow store. We can share some information on that. There's a lot on it on community. There's a dedicated forum on Microsoft Teams and the integrations with ServiceNow. All right, so going back to slides. We discussed user-driven configuration. We discussed system-driven configuration. Last but not the least is the persona-driven configuration. And I'm not going to demo this here, but this is essentially our new Manager Hub capability. It requires Employee Center Pro. And this is like a concierge service for the managers, like all the information that they would need about their teams, so whether it is knowledge articles or it is tasks associated with the team, communications for managers, and so on, are all highlighted in a nice way in the Manager Hub. And you will see that there are 3 different tabs. One is just like an overview of everything that they would need to know. There's a special tab which has all the information about their team. There's a separate tab with like library of resources. The purpose is that managers are able to get to focus on the most important and urgent things as quickly as possible, can get a bird's eye view of what their team is doing, and also be able to consume all the manager related content that has been targeted to them. So if you haven't explored this, I will definitely recommend you to explore it. It's a really cool capability, and no matter where, no matter what, like whether it's an HR related or IT related, like we have heard really great feedback on this. Now I'm hearing some questions on what's in the roadmap and what is the art of the possible. So let's discuss a couple of things. And I don't have too much here because I want to leave some room for discussion as well. But we have seen organizations do all kind of personalization activities. First of them is personalized greeting, which is the most common one. So instead of saying on top of your search bar, instead of saying how are we doing or what are you looking for, you could say good morning Pooja, or like good evening Pooja, something like that, or hello Pooja. So when I was showcasing Beth's home profile, you actually saw some of the personalized greeting embedded in the rich content widget. That's just an example of what you can do. Portal notifications. Many of our customers are actually building a notification system that gets people to get into the task or any new change that has been made on the portal as a notification. Something that we are also exploring in the roadmap. So if there's an interest for it, please let us know via chat. But we have seen many organizations do that. Personalized branding. It is absolutely possible. There were people who were asking about it in the chat. Currently, out of box, you can only have one brand that is associated and one theme that is associated across the portal. But we have had customers, especially those who have multiple brands under their a broader umbrella, and they have been able to personalize the theming and the branding on the portal depending on where the employee has logged in from. So it's all possible. And of course, anything that I'm talking about here are up for consideration for the roadmap. Then user-driven personalization. We have seen customers and invest a lot in letting users decide what widgets they want to see on the homepage, what size they want the widget to be, so the layout and so on. And in fact, we do have an innovation lab application which has been built by not the product team but the Now and Now team in ServiceNow, because we have delivered it internally and we want organizations to value from what we have done. So if you are looking for that, feel free to explore the innovation lab capability on this. But that's something that we have definitely heard people do. And then, those who are investing in a news experience, there are things like news subscription, very similar to the community opt-in that we have. So there's a lot that's going on over there. That's all I had. So I'm happy to open up for more questions. If people who raised their hand and were not able to unmute, I'm happy to take their questions right now as well. So what are some AI search specific personalizations possible for both system driven and user driven area? So Ankita, the way I would say you should think about it is it's not just AI search, because AI search is only applying for the search experience, um, unless you're just talking about the search experience. But if you think about the AI specific personalizations, then you can explore things like recommended for you that I was talking about. But from just the search experience perspective, I think the relevance, and I'm not too deep in it, but the relevance that is calculated for AI search is looking at user profile and like what they have accessed in past. There are multiple different factors that can be used to determine relevancy for the users. That will be a completely system-driven personalization for search experience, and that's done by AI search.
And just to add on to that, for the AI search, we have a roadmap item to support the content from the content publishing with AI search. And we have a feature that's coming in August. It's going to be a popular feature where we are going to support AI search for that feature.
Yep. Thanks, Rohan. So this is basically like the rich content that we have on topic microsites. All of that will be searchable via AI search, and then they'll be, because that content is targeted, you would have associated targeting or system-driven personalization with it.
Yeah, like for example, the news feature that's coming up would have that support.
Yep. So as an admin, how do you ensure new content, knowledge, and catalog is associated with the topic? If that association does not happen, it just does not show up in Employee Center for the user, even if they have access to it. So great question, and I have great news for this. We have a new capability that just came out in February, and with that, you can have an established association between a topic and a catalog, knowledge category, knowledge or catalog category. And then you can, as a topic owner or a topic manager, you can actually just use the related link option to find out what new content has been created in those categories. We will share the community article. Amrita, that will be the blog that I just posted on what's new in February release. If you could just share it with people on the chat, that will help. So with that, the topic managers are not dependent on knowledge creators or catalog owners to tag the content to the topic. They can do it themselves. And they can even choose which of this they want and which of this they don't want in the topic. So I'm very happy to deliver that news. Are there different layout options out of box for the main content experiences widget? Yes. So you could have a carousel layout. I think it came out a couple of releases back, versus, and you have both the current layout, which is the tabular one on right, and you can also have the carousel layout, and it's pretty simple to configure actually. So that's possible. Okay, let me see.
So there's a question about AI search for external content. So Pooja, we have something in the roadmap about that, right? Where we are going to support.
Yeah. So we have a couple of things that has been already delivered, and we have more in the roadmap. So currently you do have the capability to connect the AI search with SharePoint and search for content that is sitting in SharePoint. And over there also, we built an enhancement to it in Q4 last year, where the access guidelines, like for example, a site is accessible for one employee and not for the others, that permission levels are ported over to ServiceNow. So what content is visible depends on the access. So you have an out-of-box integration with the SharePoint connector to bring in external content with AI search. Having said that, there are a lot more connectors that are built by our partner Ratio. So if you, let's say you want to have with Google Drive or other systems where you may be having content, you can leverage those connectors with AI search and bring in external search content or search sources into ServiceNow.
So I have a question here about it's an anonymous question about content management systems. So if I understand that right, if it is going to be the content publishing, and that's part of the EC Pro offering. So that should be available to all our customers, even FedRAMP, because we package them in every family release as well.
Yes, that's correct. So there's no limitation on like whether they are available for FedRAMP or not. So even if you have a FedRAMP environment, you can leverage our content publishing and content experiences capabilities. Oh, so Robert is asking, can you give me an example of the view as feature, or is there an article that you can redirect me to? So the view as feature, if I'm understanding it correctly, is the one that is associated with Manager Hub. And as a manager, you sometimes don't have the visibility of what laws and what content is available for your employees sitting in a different geography. So you can view as that employee directly from Manager Hub and search for content and see what search results come up and like what articles come up for them. And you can click on that article and see what is available. So for example, if I just pick the knowledge block, if you are viewing that article sitting in US as the manager, you may see something different versus the employee sitting in some other region. So you can impersonate kind of with that view as functionality and view that article and see what policies apply to them.
That's
right.
So I just wanted to say that's a good example. Another one is like if there is a new employee that's been onboarded or a reportee that's been onboarded in, let's say, Asia region, and if that employee is not able to find an article, the manager can go to that widget and then set that as an employee, and then get that article up and share it with the employee.
All right, we are up on time. Thank you so much for your participation. And like I said, the recording and the slides for this will be available. And if there are any unanswered questions, we will answer them via the Q&A that we will post on the community or event link. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day or evening.